Hey gang, it's Will from Tested.
And Sean from Tested.
Hey Sean.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
Good.
You have an array of 3D printed stuff in front of you. I bet I know what we're going to talk about. 3D printed stuff?
Yes.
You and I have both spent some time with the 3Doodler. I think this is the Rev 2. I don't know if they call it the Rev 2, but it's the second generation 3Doodler. It's that guy right there. You should hold it up so people can see it. And it is a 3D printing pen. What's a 3D printing pen, Sean?
It's basically the hot end assembly from a 3D printer. So the part that runs the filament into the hot end, which melts it and extrudes the plastic. So you're basically, the person is basically taking the place of the gantry and the up and down, and you can kind of control how you lay things down then.
So you become the 3D printer.
Exactly.
We both have spent some time with it. I used the original 3Doodler a little bit at Maker Faire, some trade show, just kind of messing around with it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was really a neat concept, but it looked very much like something that somebody put together by hand in their basement.
It was pretty chunky, yeah.
And it was big. It was hard to
really
hold on
big,
to.
Yeah.
This one, the first thing I noticed about this one is it's a lot more hand-friendly. It's kind of this triangular design, almost like a big fat stylus or a kindergarten pencil or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can actually hold it like you do a normal pen, which I thought was a good improvement.
They did, I think they did an amazing improvement from version 1 to version 2. I was really impressed.
Yeah.
And just as far as a piece of engineering to fit all of that in here and for it to work as well as it does, pretty impressive.
Cool. So the outside body is anodized aluminum, I think?
Yep, it's nice and sturdy, anodized aluminum, and has little access ports for service, and comes with a variety of tools, such as a little tool for unclogging
Is that
things.
a reamer?
Yep.
Okay.
And a little wrench for taking off the tip for the hot end,
Okay.
and it comes with a little rubber grip for comfort.
Cool.
And a few other things. But yeah, it's pretty much everything you need. The only thing I think you'd want to add is a pair of, these are perfect, the needle nose that have the cutter integrated, and that you'll be covered pretty much.
So you need something to cut the filament and maybe something to pull clogs out?
Yep. When you pull it out, just like on a regular printer, the end of the filament will get kind of mushy and boogered up. You want to chop that off to use it again so that it feeds clean.
Boogered up is the technical term?
It is.
Okay. So what have you, so I know what I use this for, but I'm curious what you did, because you're much better at 3D printing stuff than I am as a general rule.
I don't know about, this is a different animal. It's like, technically, I mean, this is a weird beast because technically, yes, it's operating like a 3D printer, but I mean, it's a total different realm than what you get off of an actual 3D printer.
It's funny because it's a little closer to like craft stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a pejorative.
No.
But I mean, it's something you do by hand rather than using CNC machines.
Yeah. Nobody should go into this expecting to get a part that looks like it came out of an actual 3D printer.
You didn't do that with
No,
this?
afraid not. It would have taken a little while, but I did some embellishment on it though. So, like, yeah, we can take a look at some of the things that we did. So we have IG-88.
The famed assassin droid from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
He looks a little squatty and chunkier than I remember him, Sean.
Yeah, he took a little while too. So this is basically just starting at the feet and working your way up, making loop after loop, and just kind of building them up from there.
And this was you trying to mimic like a traditional 3D printer workflow.
Exactly. You're basically laying down layer upon layer. So the interesting thing about this though is you can go into dimensions that you can't necessarily do with a traditional one. So he was stuck to my work surface, so I started like this, and then when I wanted to do the arms, I turned him like this so I could build this straight up into the air. And when I did this arm, I went like this and got the shoulder, and then I turned him like this. You know, so you can do a little bit.
How sturdy is he?
I would say the bulk of them's pretty sturdy. The arms, this is ABS, so he's got a little flex to him.
Okay.
But he's not too bad.
So, like, I mean, you're not gonna get something that even comes close to what you would have with a traditional 3D printer doing that technique.
Right.
Although one of the things that they do is they sell these workbooks that have like big projects that you can lay fat. Yeah,
yes.
templates that you can make like an Eiffel Tower by doing each of the four sides,
right,
and then kind of joining them together in the appropriate places.
Right.
I didn't try any of that stuff, and I know
I didn't either.
Yeah. I mean, that seemed a little bit wasn't exactly what I'm looking for out of this device.
Yes.
What's next? What's your next?
We have of course, the tested logo.
I think that looks pretty good.
So this is a good example of things you can do. So this is more 2D, so to speak, because it's just kind of like, I just drew it on the surface and build up on that. And this is more 3D where it's sculptural. So you can do, different things with it. And then this involved changing the filament to get all the different colors. And I just, if you look at the back, it just kind of all melted together.
What's the filament changing process like?
So the filament feeds into the back, and we'll fire this up. Actually, we might as well fire it up now.
This is the time.
It has 2 temperature settings, low and high, because they actually offer a really nice array of filament. They have ABS, PLA, and flex. Okay. And what we have here is just a small. They have like every color of the rainbow.
Yeah, they had and you can get packs of all one color. You can get packs of individual colors.
Yeah.
It seems like the filament costs between $10 for 25 of those strands that you have. Like a pack of this is going to be either $10, or if you get a pack of 100 strands, then they give you like a 25% discount. It's about $30.
And I would say that it goes a long way. I think the price is not bad.
I mean, it's definitely more expensive than what you would pay for the equivalent amount of plastic on a spool.
Right.
I was afraid to cut. It's about 3mm filament.
Yes.
I was afraid to cut it off of one of our rolls for fear I would clog it irretrievably. Because these are very straight, and the stuff that you cut off of your spools is kind of curved.
Got to have a curve.
Yeah.
I asked them about that at the print show because that occurred to me as well, and they're like, "Well, technically you could, but there's a good chance because of the curvature it could jam."
Yeah.
So I think there is a legitimate, real reason to buy their stuff that is nice and straight. So and meant to go in this. So
and I mean they have the right colors and stuff, and it's convenient, I guess. Okay, so you load it in the top when it's hot.
So you have high and low. So low for PLA, high for ABS and flex.
Okay.
So it has a nice indicator light, so it's heating right now. And you can see we have it plugged in. There is plans to release a battery pack as well for this at some point, but I don't think they've actually released it. It's
a $50 accessory that'll give you some use.
So within this little thing, they have a heater. There's a drive mechanism up front. There's a exhaust fan in the back, and then you got the hot end and everything. So there's an amazing amount crammed into this small thing.
It's technically really impressive.
Yeah. So there's just the feed port. You just push it in right there, and once this turns, I believe it turns blue for ABS for high, and then it turns green if it's on the low setting.
Okay. And it seems to take like less than 5 minutes to heat up. I didn't actually time it.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's not that long.
Yeah.
So it's good. So then at this point you have fast. The big button is fast speed, and then the smaller button is slow. So you can just press the button and give it a little shove.
And once you feel it kind of bite, just like a normal 3D printer.
I think it's going. It does take about 25 to 30 seconds to load the whole way because it's got to go here. Now what you can do also is you can double click this and it will stay in continuous mode.
Oh, no, that I didn't get.
Which is nice. And then the other thing you can do with this is, so if you're doing long projects, this is great. And then if you press the button, it will pause. So that's a nice feature. So we can see I had some red loaded here, so it's pushing that out.
Color is changing. Mm-hmm. There we go.
So once you got your pure new color, you can stop it. And it will seep a little bit just like a regular printer.
It does a little bit of auto retraction though, right?
Yeah.
It seems like.
So now getting you need the proper surface to get this to stick to. I did try going right on my mat here, which didn't work great. So what I started doing is put a piece of packing tape down.
Okay.
Or the traditional blue painter's tape I think you had success with.
I found that the traditional cutting mat worked okay if I took some rubbing alcohol and wiped it all clean first.
Yes.
Just to get all the fingerprint oil off.
Yep.
But it wasn't great. The blue tape worked pretty well.
Packing tape worked well as well. So depending on what you're doing, if you want to do finer detail, the slow button, but we'll do the fast.
So the hard part about this for me was getting the initial adhesion, and then it was also hard managing the feed rate for the head. Like you have to go at pretty much the precise speed, but once I got the knack of it, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, the things that I did are really ugly. And I feel that this is one of those things that once you start getting the knack for it, you could do a lot better work.
Like that was the feeling I had. I felt like I spent probably 2 hours working with it all told.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was still plenty of skill ceiling above there for me to continue to improve.
Yeah.
You're getting much better adhesion with the packing tape than I did with the blue painters tape.
Yeah, it works pretty. Oop, I just lost
And then
it. There.
see, then it pops off. I had pretty good so I tried it with some other stuff too.
Yeah.
I had a piece that was on my refrigerator that had broken, a piece of plastic on my refrigerator that had broken, that the refrigerator manufacturer wanted like $180 to replace.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought,
that.
I wonder if I can use this magical 3D handheld pen printer device to kind of stitch it back together. The answer to that is kind of, but it doesn't really work very well. The piece, while the piece was on well enough to hold, it wasn't strong enough to be structurally sound.
Yeah.
Like if it was something that was going to hold a door up or something like that, that would never work right again.
Yes.
So probably not the best for that stuff. Although you can probably add like little divots. Like if you needed to put a divot on a USB on a SD card to make it writable again, probably you could do that. I would think.
And that leads well into this because what they have been suggesting and what I tried is welding or fixing actual 3D prints.
Okay.
So this is a piece of the Gowanus monster that we built the other day. And so traditionally this would just get put together with pins, the red and the blue, or two separate pieces, or get glued together. So what I did is I tried to do a little bit of welding here. So I pretty much just laid a bead around the inside lip here, and it worked pretty well. It glued this together, so to speak, pretty nicely.
Huh.
So I think that could be a really good use for a complement to actual 3D printers where you are using it to join or fix pieces.
Or maybe fill in, fill areas that there's not quite enough infill in or whatever.
Yeah, like maybe there's a gap
whatever.
or a misprint or something like that. And then you could do a little sanding on it if you want. Now this is a hidden seam, so this could be messy and it's going to work really well and hold it all together. I also experiment with let's try putting some rivets on, and they're not pretty. I think this is limited use, let's do some panel lines or something. But I did realize if you're doing maybe some, like a tank or a robot and you wanted some weld lines on it,
right.
it would look awesome.
Or if you wanted to kind of knock out a divot so that there's a place that you could weather or whatever.
Yeah, like battle damage or so. So there are different uses for this. You can you go the artistic route where you're drawing stuff or making stuff. And I think that there are applications for it to complement actual 3D printing. I haven't actually tried it myself, but there's the friction welding where you put a piece of filament in a Dremel and use it to basically weld with. I think that this would probably work better than that.
Okay.
Now, how often you need to do that is it depends. I myself wouldn't have a lot of need for that, but I've also seen people who are doing large sculptural stuff on a 3D printer and putting that kind of stuff together. I think it would work really well.
Like the people who take a decent sized printer and then join a ton of pieces to make armor or helmets and stuff like that.
I think it could be a good application for that.
How strong is the join compared to, say, glue that you got with the weld, do you think?
I think if you do it right, it can be just as strong or stronger. I mean, it's really on there because I really got the nozzle in there, and it actually was not only laying a weld down, but it was melting the existing plastic a little bit as well. So I think you could get a substantial bond there.
We'd also thought about doing jewelry. So I don't think you'd ever do your own 3D print, but if you wanted to make a two-dimensional piece of jewelry, like an earring or a bracelet or something like that with the flexible plastic, that's
because I had the little piece of the flex here, and it's pretty good. And
is it like rubbery?
It is rubbery. It's kind of like vinyl.
Okay.
So it's not real stretchy, but it is flexible.
Is it like window clings or something like that, kind of? Or?
Yeah, okay. I think that just thicker. Yeah, and once again, I think that for myself personally, the stuff that I was able to make with this is this is kind of messy, which is I like mechanical, very clean stuff. But I see this in the hands of the right person, it speaks to them, and I could see some really like there's going to be that person who's like make something incredible with this because it just is their medium.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, and just to be clear, the people who make this had made some clothing and jackets and dresses and all sorts of crazy stuff with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of tool. It has a big benefit in that it's very inexpensive compared to 3D printers.
Yeah.
Because it's $99, $100. If you're a person, if you're in a situation where you have a lot of free time, not a lot of money, you can probably make something pretty rad with this. It is a tool that literally doesn't exist in any other form, except for like the closest analog is probably a hot glue gun.
Yeah.
Because I do know that people use hot glue guns to make sculptural stuff that's kind of amazing. And this is like the fine detail version of that weird use of a tool.
And I've seen them do it like making like little doilies with this, and so it has a lot of potential. In the right hands, it's just I'm new to it and everything's kind of ugly. But
well, and kind of like as I got started doing this, I really quickly realized that this is not my kind of art, right? Like this is not my joint.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Yeah. They made an amazing piece of machinery here. It works very well for what it is. It's just not my forte.
Yeah.
You know.
What was your experience using it? Like, do you have any problems? Did you find reloading to be a pain or anything like that?
No, it has. In fact, we can put it here. It has an automatic safety mode where it'll shut down the heater after 5 minutes, which it's done here.
So you don't burn your house down.
Yeah, so you can either just hit the button and it'll start reheating, or you can just toggle it on and off. They did. Loading is very straightforward, as you saw. Now, if you need to unload, it can be straightforward.
Okay.
Because. If the filament is still sticking out, you can hold both buttons down and it will reverse and you can pull it right out.
Okay.
Now,
just like you do on a normal 3D printer.
Yes. Now, if you have used it to the point where this filament is down inside, then it's a little clunky. Then you got to take the wrench, and while it's heated, you have to take the nozzle off.
Oh no.
And then you take a paper clip and you have to jam it up through the bottom while it's running to poke it out the back.
Oh wow.
Which was, once you got used to it, it's not that bad, but it's a little clunky.
It's not what you want.
Yeah, so you have one of two options. Either you use up the stick that's in it, or you remove the tip and pop it out the back.
And when you say use up the stick that's in it, you mean push another one in it to keep pushing it through, just like you do with a normal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like a hot glue gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I mean, depending on what you're working on, if you're doing something all one color, it's not an issue, because you just put a new stick in behind it and you're good to go. If you're changing them like I did for the tested badge, then it was like I had to take the nozzle off like 4 times to load the different colors.
It seems like if you're going to do a lot of stuff that requires multiple color changes, you might want to just buy 2 or 3.
Yeah, like like we said, we saw somebody who did a dress out of this. I'm sure they had a whole array of these in different colors, you know. So if you're on that level, then yeah, you'd buy more.
Okay.
But for your average user, either you use up the color, or you do have to keep in mind that you need to take the nozzle off and stuff like that.
So, go ahead.
They do have a little access panel here that you can pop off with the included tool. And they have a spare access panel, so if something gets really jammed up, you can actually access the drive mechanism in here, which is nice.
Oh, that's great. So then you can open it up and bend it around and pull it out the bottom.
Exactly. So I think, all things considered, they really put a lot of thought into it, and it's nice that you can do that and access that. And they have a foot pedal accessory that you can plug in up here.
That sounds interesting to me. Like, as somebody who's used like soldering irons and stuff like that have foot pedals in the past, you can do some really neat stuff with like reflow guns and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think the foot pedal is a nice addition, and that's a separate add-on. So between like the continuous run feature and that you can do with double clicking and the foot pedal, I think that if you wanted to do something bigger, you could. And they have an add-on nozzle set that you can get that it's kind of like cake decorating tips. You can get like a big flat nozzle, and you can get different extrusions with it, which I think would be interesting to mess around with as well.
Cool. We talked about the learning process. Like I said, I used it for a couple hours, and I felt like I was getting better the entire time. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the high end that you would just make with this? Do you think that, like, it seems like you could use it to decorate cards and stuff like that, like more craftsy stuff than we normally do on Tested?
Yes.
But then, like you said, I think that somebody is going to make something absolutely unbelievable with this.
I do too. I think the right person's like it just speaks to them and they could use it to do some really cool stuff. And I think just practicing with it, when you get the feel of how it works, you'll start to like learn how to make things look nicer and smoother and stuff like that. One thing I think a recommendation I would have is now. They have like ABS PLA and the Flex. I did find that ABS and Flex kind of got stinky because it's a little more fumey. It's a lot more fumey than PLA. So you're more like a soldering iron here because it's like you're right on top of it. So I would say getting a little fan would be great, and that would also help with certain prints like IG88 here when we were doing the legs. It wasn't cooling fast enough as I was laying this down, so they start to droop and sag. So I think a fan going across your work area would not only help with like the fumey aspect of the different filaments, but also help cool it faster, just like on active cooling on an actual printer.
Okay.
So I think that's a good addition that would also help your how it turns out.
Cool. Anything else on maintenance? It seems like it's pretty straightforward. You unload the filament at the end of your day.
I didn't have any problems. I mean, everything's pretty accessible. I never had to open the access panel. Taking the tip off, while you have to be careful because it's hot. If you're using some care, you're good. And like I said, the tweezers can help, having those on hand, or the needle nose.
It seems like it was designed to have the hot end taken off, which is kind of unusual in the 3D printing world. Usually that's the nuclear option to fix your clogged printer on a traditional 3D printer.
But I respect them for letting you do that.
Oh yeah, no. I think it's a good thing for sure.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's the 3Doodler. You can buy it right now. It's $100. The filament packs cost about $10 each, between $10 and $12, $13, and you get it cheaper if you buy 100 of them at a time. Thanks for coming by and showing this, Sean.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys on Tested real soon.
Bye.
Bye.